Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for a session on the update on Estero Village. Our speaker today is a member of a council for Estero Village, Mr. Steven Sarkozy. And Mr. Sarkozy, if you can just bring your camera down just a little bit. Thank you so much. I am going to go over a couple housekeeping rules. We are going to hold the questions until the end of the session. If you have a suggestion for a topic, you can go ahead and post it in your Q&As, which are visible at the bottom of your screen. And as the session is finished, we are going to open the floor to questions. And you may ask a question by raising your hand, and then I will allow you to unmute yourself. At this point, everybody is muted except myself and Mr. Sarkozy. And without further ado, Mr. Sarkozy, please go ahead and start your session.
Thank you, Aga, and good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Sarkozy, and I'm the village manager here in Estero. So what I'm going to try to do is provide a general update on what's going on with the village. And I'll be talking about a broad cross-section of issues. And be then delighted to come back and dig deeper on any questions that you might have. So there's obviously a lot going on, particularly this time of year. So it's hard for me to really target what might be of interest for those that are viewing in. There's a lot of the Zoom meetings going on. This is our fourth Zoom meeting this week on one topic or another with our community members. We're trying to stay as connected as we can, but it's always interesting to see what are the issues out there. So this certainly helps me stay informed on issues of interest in the community. First off, for an overview of for those who might not know much about the village of Estero, we were incorporated about 6.5 years ago. The incorporation left us with a community with a year-round population of about 35,000. During the high season, the estimate is that we go up to about 52 or 53,000 population. Estero is rather unique in its approach. We operate under the government light approach or spirit of operation. What we've interpreted that to mean is that we're going to maintain a low tax rate and a low level of staff, and we operate utilizing contracts wherever possible. Currently, we have the lowest tax rate, property tax rate in Southwest Florida. And we believe, we've been told that it's the lowest tax rate in all of South Florida, south of Tampa and Orlando. We have 10 full-time employees for a city of 35 to 52,000, depending upon the season, 10. And we're pretty proud of that. We have significant reserves. So we operate with a full year of operating revenue held in reserve. That is considered a very conservative level of reserves. We also have a couple of different pockets of reserves intended to protect the community. We have a litigation reserve. If we're ever sued, there's no hesitation on the part of the council to defend the community in a very vigorous way. We have about $670,000 in our litigation reserve account. We also have reserves for the maintenance of the major streets that we've taken over as a result of our incorporation. We did a complete condition assessment of all of the streets that we assumed when we incorporated. We took these maintenance responsibilities away from the county. And what we did is banked the straight life depreciation of all of our streets that we took over, both the major streets and the minor streets. So there are significant amounts of money set aside for the maintenance of those streets and ultimately the eventual replacement, although those are on long timelines. The other thing that we've done to maintain a very professional approach to our operation is, instead of simply spending on people's pet projects or self-interest, we performed master planning in all of the functional areas of responsibility that, when we took over the community. So the county had been operating in with their own approach. When we took over the community and assumed roads, stormwater, parks, a variety of other issues, bikes and pedestrian walkways and so forth, we did studies that analyzed the need for new facilities and the needs for the future of the community. And by performing these master plans, they created a guideline for the village council and staff to utilize in our budgeting and planning for the future. In addition to those master plans, we also rewrote our comprehensive plan and adopted then a land development code that is unique to Estero. So these are all major efforts that, again, are fairly unique and are not widely adopted throughout this region, unfortunately. Frankly, as someone who's committed themselves to city management, I'm not sure why people wouldn't do it this way, but they haven't. But this gives us a guideline that depoliticizes the decision-making process to a large extent and allows us to focus community resources where it's really most necessary, leaving, of course, plenty of room for the village council and others to influence our purchasing decisions. We, as I mentioned, we operate with 10 full-time staff. We have about a half a dozen part-time people in areas of specialty that really help us with the day-to-day activities. But as part of the government light approach as well, we do not carry forward absolutely zero, any unfunded pension obligations, any unfunded sick leave accruals, anything of that type is actually forbidden in our charter. And we live up to that as a way of maintaining a low level of expenses. So that's kind of an overview of the village operation. It's different than what you probably have experienced in other areas of Florida and certainly other areas up north for those of us who've relocated here from elsewhere. Most recently, the village is going through a fairly major change in our leadership. We have 7 council members that are voted in by districts, but they serve the entire community and are voted in, although by districts, they're voted in on a citywide basis. We have 7 council members, as I mentioned, and we have 3 new council members coming on board next week. This is the second election that we've had. The first was 2 years ago, where 3 of our founding council members, Councilmember Nick Bedos, Councilmember Howard Levitan, and Councilmember Bill Ribble, were all voted in unanimously, re-elected unanimously, and their positions were uncontested. This time, those 3 same council members are cycling off the council due to our term limits, and we have 3 new people coming on. Joanne Ribble, Larry Faisal, and Jim Ward. And I've gone through a series of updates with each of those incoming council members. And I can assure the public that we're going to be well served by these new folks. They've got their own perspective, but they're sharp and they've got great backgrounds to be able to help the community. So that's a big transition for the organization. But again, these were uncontested elections, in part indicating here the stability that we have in our community, which is a tribute to the entire community. So that's a big change. Let me talk a little bit about COVID and what we've been doing over the last 6 months. It'd be an understatement to say that COVID has impacted all of us, but it's also true for the village operation. When COVID hit, we immediately went virtual, and in order to protect residents, we eliminated the need to come into Village Hall for accessing services. We put literally every operation that we have online and maintained a high service level, in fact, uninterrupted, and actually improved our service responses by keeping everybody out of the office, socially separated, and with complete availability to our services 24/7. In order to maintain that, not only for COVID, but for other events, we put all of our records online. This has been a huge effort. A whole semi full of records has been inputted. Staff didn't miss a beat. We took COVID as something of an opportunity while we were working remotely. Our staff members took projects home and completed those when they had an opportunity. So we really maximized their availability to get things done for the long-term benefit of the community. The way it stands right now, all of our records are in the cloud. We're able to pick up our laptops. Every person in the village, every contractor can pick up their laptop, work remotely from home or wherever, and continue to serve the community. Why this is important is that it's also part of our recovery effort and maintenance of operation effort in the event of hurricanes. So we had a good experience with Irma. The village came through that. It was a direct hit, of course, on Estero, but we were relatively I won't say untouched, but minimally touched, despite the fact that Irma was a direct hit here. And every year we go through the same protocols to prepare for the eventual reoccurrence of high winds and rains and high tides as a result of Irma. So the COVID was certainly a major impact on our community, but we tried to respond in as positive a way as we could, not only operationally, but you're all probably aware that we sent out Estero Mass to literally every address, every business. In the case of businesses, we asked them how many additional masks that they would like, and all in an effort to protect our residents. We sent almost 50,000 masks out to our residents. And in addition, we've purchased hand sanitizer stations that were donated free throughout the community. Again, anything that we can do to help protect the safety of our residents has been our focus. So that's kind of the background, an overview and a background. And now I thought I'd kind of jump into some of the current projects that are out there. First off, we've As a new community, we right off the bat tackled one of the biggest projects that we had anticipated in our capital improvement program, and that is the upgrade of Estero Parkway from US 41 east over to Three Oaks Parkway. That project, most of you probably have been on that road, but it was intended to improve not just the road surface, but also the quality of the landscaping and providing almost a linear park approach along that entire segment. Both the north and south sides of the road have bike lanes. And importantly, instead of the smaller 7-foot bike lanes that are in Lee County, we went with a full nationally certified 7-foot bike lanes to protect the safety of motorists and particularly bikers. In addition, then on the outside edge, pushing away as far as we could in most cases from the road, we put in a 10-foot walkway that really makes it more inviting to walk or bike, for residents. Just by personal experience, every time I've been out there, I've seen, at least a half a dozen people on that stretch out walking or riding bikes. So it's getting people out of their community and either recreating on that stretch or accessing some of the commercial areas nearby. That project is essentially done, and we're moving on to the next big projects. The next group of projects that I can talk about are roads and landscaping in one category, recreational components in another, and then I'll talk about some of the other private developments that are going on in Estero. Road projects that are coming up, by and large, are some of the landscaping and road right-of-way projects that are in design and will finish up later this year or into next year. Those include the roundabout at Williams and via Coconut. That roundabout doesn't have much in it, and it'll be beautified, including all of the segments leading up to the roundabout. A second one is a landscaping plan on via Coconut from Coconut all the way north up to Corkscrew. A third is Ben Hill Griffin from Corkscrew Road north up to Three Oaks Parkway. And on terms of road projects, we're going to be doing the Williams at US 41 intersection. It's in design currently and will probably be done next year. And I think many of you have been involved in that project, at least looking at the concept plans that include a roundabout there at the nursing home. But that intersection has been a mess for years, and we're going to try to correct that. That includes also better access and more capacity at US 41 and Williams on the west side of 41 there. We're of course also dealing with Corkscrew Road at I-75. That widening of the corkscrew at the freeway will eliminate one of the biggest backups that we have in the entire city. And that includes adding one additional lane in both the east and westbound area to put 2 turn lanes onto I-75. And as we speak, we're in the planning then for significant landscaping improvements there when the road construction is done. And by far the biggest project that we're currently working on is Corkscrew Road east of Ben Hill Griffin. That road improvement project is actually a Lee County road project, but we're working with them much to develop landscape improvements and bikeway improvements and walkway improvements through that entire stretch. And the village council will be looking at those improvements here in the coming weeks because it is expensive due to the fact that it's a very long stretch. And it won't be done to the same extent that we did Estero Parkway, but still it will be a significant upgrade from what the county typically does with regard to landscaping and bikeways and walkways. So those are some of the road and landscaping issues. Moving on to stormwater and water quality issues. We've got some very significant and major projects that will take years for us to accomplish, frankly, but nonetheless, we've started on areas that deal with the Estero River and a lot of the environmental protection projects that we've adopted for the good of the whole community. One is the septic to sewer project that we still have areas of the community, about 10 different neighborhoods, including some of our trailer parks, which still have septic systems or what they call package plants that are not fully hooked up to the city sewer system or countywide sewer system. Our plan over the next several years is to systematically go through all of those areas and rebuild the utilities to those areas to eliminate septic systems and any type of discharge into the Estero River. As part of that, we've done testing of the Estero River in terms of water quality testing so that we have baseline data as we move forward. Our partner on that is Florida Gulf Coast University. We and they are using the Estero River as kind of a learning laboratory for the water quality issues. And we have a unique opportunity here because the Estero River actually flows through the campus, the watershed through the campus. And of course, it is the main watershed serving the entire village of Estero. So the water quality analysis and the ongoing monitoring that we'll be doing over the years, not just one time, but on a systematic basis annually, will give us a great handle on the condition of our water. We're not in terrible condition, but like all of the watersheds in Florida, we could use some help. As part of that, then, the FGCU will be utilizing the river as a study opportunity for students, and one where students can plug in and actually do some of the work in our gated communities and along the river, so that when they graduate, they actually have practical skills in the areas of environmental science, civil engineering, and others. So it's a great partnership. Part of our commitment to water quality and the environment is also removing a lot of the silt that's been built up in the river over the years, particularly after Irma. That is a very controlled process through the state and the federal government. And we've done the analysis so far and are now in permitting to do some of that siltation removal. That should probably occur either late this year or next year. And then as another component of all of this, we're also doing some river restoration and riverbank restoration on the far upper reaches just east of Sandy Lane to restore some of those heavily impacted areas of the Estero River. So those are all major efforts in addition to roads. In terms of parks, the village at this point really only owns one parcel of property, and that's the Estero on the river property at the corner of Corkscrew and US 41. As a commitment to protecting the river, as a commitment to maintaining urban lifestyle quality in Estero, the village council 2 years ago stepped up to that major purchase, $24.5 million for 67.5 acres, which was originally slated and permitted by the county for heavy development that would have all but clear cut that entire section. Our approach here is being very deliberate. We're studying what limited amounts of development might occur on that property in order to help us pay off the debt. But at the same time, the debt is easily accommodated within our budget. And we've in fact put an additional amount for debt retirement into our budget because of our conservative approach to finances. We're trying to become debt-free as soon as possible. We bought that property for $24.5 million. We owe, in only 2 years, we paid down a sizable portion. We owe 17.5, and we have an early debt payoff fund with cash on hand of $7.2 million. So we're not just chipping away, but we're really hammering away at that debt and still maintaining operations on all other fronts. So that's kind of an overview of what we're doing. We're planning what we might do with that parcel. And at this point, it's still an open book, but preservation is high on our list. That could be walking trails, a botanical garden, walks along the river, trails along the river, connections quite possibly underneath the US 41 bridge into the Crescent State Park, and really creating an off-road walking experience that gets people out of their homes and allowing people to socialize with friends and family in a healthy way in what is really a pristine area. When we bought that, we knew that the property was really beautiful when you get in underneath the tree canopy. But we had 3 appraisals on the property, and independently, each of the appraisers indicated that this was one of the most unique pieces of property that they had ever seen in their professional careers. We're getting into that now with our planning efforts, but it's not very accessible right now. But when you get in there, you'll be wowed at what nature has provided us. By way of background there as well, consistent with our government light approach to operations, we took over the Happahatchee Center. The Happahatchee group gave their 5 acres to us for $1 about a year and a half ago. In order to manage the Happahatchee Center with summer camps and so forth, we brought in the YMCA to manage that under a very nominal contract with the village. So consistent with what we're doing with road maintenance and park maintenance and storm sewer maintenance using contractors, we're providing that recreational service again as a contract provided by an outside firm, in this case, the YMCA. Those are the major issues. We've got some other development activity that's going on that will be of interest to the community. I'll just touch on those. But the Corkscrew Crossings project out on East Corkscrew is wholly within the village of Estero, 590 homes. This was permitted by Lee County. We contested, when we incorporated, we contested their the level of maintenance of the flowway, the sensitive environmental areas. We went to litigation to support those interests, and we prevailed, and we accomplished some increases, some additional protections in there of the unique habitat. But that project, that housing project, 590 homes, will proceed here in the next 3 or 4 months. They're staging for the construction as we speak out on East Corkscrew. Another major project that is coming at us is the Stock Development Project on the southwest quadrant of Corkscrew and I-75. That project, again, is one that had been approved by the county, and we interceded on that one to make sure that it was there were some improvements in the design, more consistent with what we're looking for in Estero. That project, though, has now been approved and will likely build here in the next couple of months. Another major project is new schools being developed by the Lee County School District. Those 2 schools will be going, an elementary school and a middle school will be built on 3 Oaks Parkway, right behind the post office, on a 73-acre site that's owned by the school district. We're going through neighborhood meetings now with residents to understand better their concerns and make sure that the development by the school district is going to address everything that might impact those neighbors, including traffic, stormwater issues, noise, landscaping, and so forth. Let's see, another big project will be the Lee Health project down at Coconut and US 41. That is not yet formally in our pipeline, but will be shortly. It's 43 acres that Lee Health bought, and we've seen some of the concept plans, and they're really, it looks like a tremendous project. The Lee Health System has been very sensitive to the interests of the community, in my opinion, and has a dense development in there, but it's a development that will, I think, provide a lot of benefits to the community. So a lot of details are not yet known, but that's something that you'll be seeing here in the coming couple of months that I think will be of great interest. So those are some of the overviews, what we've been doing, what we are doing, and what's coming up. And I guess I'd just like to throw it open to any questions that you might have. When I've appeared before your group in the past, you've had some great questions. And I just say to anybody that's out there, there's no question that we would shy away from here. So bring it on. I hope I've hit some of the highlights and the issues that are of interest to your group.
Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and raise your hand for a question. You can find that option at the very bottom of your screen, and I will then be able to allow you to ask the question. Mr. McDowell, go ahead and unmute yourself. There is a button at the bottom of your screen that looks like a microphone. Perfect.
On the Williams Road issue, how has that progressed? Is there any news? I know we saw in the paper 3 or 4 options that road, primarily because of the exit from the Walgreens there is problematic, and the road is quite narrow. How much input can a community like this, which probably is responsible for 30% of the traffic there, how can we have more input into that and help make a decision? Because it's a problem that everyone acknowledges. It just has to be thought about clearly, and the implications of the traffic have to be discussed.
Yes, absolutely. Hope you're doing well, Mike, and good to hear
Thank
from
you.
you. Yes, in our planning process, what we do is and in particular in this case, we came up with, I think, 4 or 5 different options, and those were vetted out with the community, and then brought back with your recommendations back to the village council. The alignment, so we have a number of problems in there that you folks are more aware of than anybody else. The intersection itself is too narrow. There's not enough turn lanes. There's on the south side at Walgreens, there's not enough right of way. There's not enough distance between 41 and the interior or the parallel access road there. You can't make left turns. And then we have on the south side of Williams, we have the wetland that constricts what we might do. So the plan currently shows for a roundabout right at the entrance to the nursing home, so that from the north, if you're coming southbound, you take a right onto Williams Road, use the roundabout to go back east. And then that provides enough stacking at the Williams US 41 intersection to allow a full discharge of the intersection at each traffic signal cycle. Those plans have been reviewed out there with the communities. I think you folks were involved to some extent in that. If you want to see those, we'd be delighted to bring those back out and show you the alternatives. We're in design now, but any way that we can tweak that to make it even better, we'd love to do that. So David Willems, our Director of Public Works and City Engineer, has been involved in that. I can't recall exactly when he was out and about talking about that, but Mike, there's still time to wade in on that one.
Well, thank you very much. I know David does a good job. I hope there's no relationship between David Williams and Williams Road. So
nope, different spelling.
Vested interest there.
We'll try to get those. We'll push those plans out to you. We've got your email somewhere, and
Yes.
Just welcome your feedback.
Great. Thank you.
You bet.